Welcome to Fandom Recipes. Today we will be starting a series of videos. Based on viewer interest, it appears that many of you are interested in recipes from Tolkien's Legendarium. Every year, my close friends and I marathon all three of the extended versions of Peter Jackson's take on the trilogy. In addition to watching the movies, we also cook up a feast fit for hobbits based off of meals and recipes that are mentioned in the books and movies. When crafting these recipes, I'm keeping a few things in mind. First, as much as possible, I'm trying to stick to specific foods and meals that are referenced in the text. In the event that there are no specific references to foods served at certain meals, we will be adapting recipes from Edwardian Britain, the Britain that Tolkien would have grown up in as a child. Third, despite the fact that in the movie, the hobbits cook up tomatoes, sausages, and nice crispy bacon at Weathertop.
Tomato salad?
What are you doing?
Tomatoes, sausages, nice crispy bacon.
We saved some for you, Mr. Frodo.
Put it out, you fools! Put it out!
That's nice.
There will be no tomatoes in any of these recipes. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't have a vendetta against tomatoes like I do against mayonnaise. My rationale is that while Tolkien included tomatoes as foodstuffs in the first edition of The Hobbit, for reasons best known to himself, he switched tomatoes for pickles in the third edition that was released in 1966. Some argue that he eliminated tomatoes because they're technically a New World food, but if that were the case, we'd have to get rid of potatoes as well, and you know Sam would never stand for that.
Potatoes!
So, in the spirit of Tolkien, there will be no tomatoes in any of these recipes. Today we're going to start with first breakfast. My inspiration for this meal comes from a statement of Thorin's made towards the close of the first chapter of The Hobbit. When the evening of the unexpected party comes to a close, he says to Bilbo, "I like 6 eggs with my ham when starting out on a journey. Fried, not poached, and mind you don't break 'em." As such, the centerpiece of our first breakfast will be ham and eggs. Additionally, I figured that if you were a busy hobbit, getting up in the morning to garden or tend the fields, you would probably need some sort of carbohydrate. I considered making a homemade loaf of bread for toast, but ultimately decided that as Bilbo is a rather well-to-do hobbit, crumpets would not be inappropriate. We're going to start with the crumpet recipe as it requires the most time. Heat your milk to approximately 110 degrees Fahrenheit and add your yeast and sugar. Mix together and let the mixture sit for about 10 minutes until frothy. Next, combine your flour and salt in the bowl of a stand mixer. Then add your yeast mixture and beat for approximately 3 minutes with the paddle attachment. If no stand mixer is available, you can certainly mix the dough by hand. It will just be a more labor-intensive process. Once you have a thick, cohesive dough, remove the bowl from the stand mixer and cover it in plastic wrap. You can leave the paddle attachment sitting in the dough as we will be hooking it back up to the mixer at a later stage. Let your dough rest for approximately 1 to 2 hours until doubled in size. Once your dough has expanded, replace the bowl in the stand mixture and reattach the paddle. Then dissolve your baking soda in water and add the mixture to the bowl. Then beat for approximately 2 minutes until everything comes together. Don't fuss if there are a few lumps left in the batter. They will dissolve during the next rising stage. The dough will need to sit for at least 30 minutes before we can start cooking the crumpets. However, if you are patient and able to wait a little bit longer, you will get a higher rise out of your crumpets. While the crumpet dough sits, you can start prepping your ham and eggs. I have dinner-cut slices of ham that only need to be lightly fried on each side to be fit for first breakfast. As for the eggs, I trust that my viewers have the rudimentary knowledge necessary to fry eggs. However, in the event that some of you are barbarians, here are some tips and tricks. Do not, I repeat, do not crack your eggs directly into the skillet. Crack them into a ramekin and pour them into a skillet. When it comes to cooking eggs, low and slow is typically the best approach. Melt a pat of butter in your skillet over medium-low heat. Once melted, add your eggs and let them cook for about 2.5 minutes. Now we're going to cook our crumpets. Place your crumpet rings on your frying pan and spray everything lightly with cooking spray. You will need crumpet rings in order to cook the crumpets because the dough is quite wet and needs a ring to keep its shape. Let your pan and crumpet rings preheat over a medium stove setting. Once hot, use a measuring spoon to scoop roughly half a cup of batter into each crumpet ring, enough so that each ring is roughly half full. Then turn your stove down to medium-low. The crumpets should take approximately 10 minutes to cook through. However, that time may vary slightly depending on the temperament of your stove. At approximately 8 minutes, I recommend using a spatula to lift up your crumpets and check that the bottoms are a toasty brown. You can leave them to cook fully through on one side, or you can flip them to get an even browning, whatever your preference.
What's taters, precious? What's taters, eh?
In terms of getting everything on one warm plate, I recommend cooking the 3 components of this meal in this fashion. Start by frying your ham while preheating the pan for the crumpets. Proceed to cook the crumpets. End by frying your eggs while the crumpets are finishing up. In the event that the ham and crumpets are finished before you're ready to fry the eggs, you can keep everything warm by preheating your oven to its lowest setting, setting everything on a sheet pan, and letting it sit in the oven to keep warm. Serve your plate of fried ham, 6 eggs, and beautiful crumpets with a generous helping of butter, jam, and/or honey, as well as a suitable morning beverage. Now this is a first breakfast fit for starting out on a journey to the Lonely Mountain.